Welkom terug. Nou ons gesels oor baarde. Ja, Dr. Kashmal Kalan van die LV Armani Kliniek kuier vanoggend by ons en ons gesels oor 'n baardoorplanting. Hoekom mense doen, hoe nodig dit is, hoe lank dit vat, al die antwoorde wat jy natuurlik wil hê, al daai vrae. Goeiemôre, good morning dokter.
Goeiemôre en dankie dat ek weer by julle kan kuier.
Hey. I want to start with they said I read they said, you know, it was for long it was a trend. This clean shaven look was a major trend and now we're moving away from that to a slightly more bearded trend. When did that change start happening?
So, you know, just with like fashion, clothing, makeup, anything, trends come and go. And for a big while, I mean, having the clean-shaven look was the look that most gentlemen were going for. But over the past, I would say, call it 4 to 5 years, I think what we see in South Africa is almost always 6 months to a year behind what the trends are internationally as well.
Wow.
And there's been quite a big change in terms of how gentlemen want to present themselves. And one of the big things has been having a strong, thick beard. We've seen the change in our practice, particularly over the last 2 years or so. There's been a tremendous increase in people consulting us for beard transplantation, moustache transplantation, and it doesn't necessarily mean you don't have to have a beard at all. Most gentlemen do have beards, but there may be patches, there may be certain areas that aren't looking strong enough, and those are patients that are seeking care for us to make it look fuller and stronger as well.
What's interesting, I read, they said studies have found that beards are linked to men's dominance in finding a partner. I was like, what?
I think this is taking us back to the caveman days, hey? Where and it's actually an honest truth. Back in the day when, and this is many, many, many years ago, not obviously in our societies of today, but linking male dominance was linked to things like big muscles, tallness, big, obviously physical presence, and
yes,
most importantly, having facial hair. Because facial hair, just like a mane in a lion, gives that impression of dominance.
Wow,
so
okay,
partners would look for males that had stronger beards so that they were thought of as being more dominant in the population. And that is why in those days it was seen as a link to dominance. In today's times, it's more a fashion trend, to be honest, right? I think society has changed quite vastly over the many years where dominance isn't always linked to how one looks anymore. So the link has sort of changed, but now it's more of a fashion trend or fashion statement to actually want to have a strong full beard.
My goodness. But there are people who struggle to grow a beard. Some of us are blessed with great, lovely beards. And then there are some of those who have a bit of a patchy spotting thing. Ofu. And is this the kind of treatment that you would go for?
Yeah, most certainly. So as I said earlier, it doesn't always have to be people that can't grow beards at all. And what we must understand is that beard growth can be linked to our genetics. So not every single gent can actually grow a beard. And we have a lot of gents that might just have a bit of facial hair in their chin, a very thin moustache, a little bit of their sideburns, but they don't actually have any hair over the cheeks or any hair under the chin area.
Yes.
And those are people that are just genetically predisposed to not having a beard.
It's not that you can't change that with a cream or a shampoo or nothing. It's genetic.
That is absolutely correct. So in some individuals where they just don't grow beards, I mean, you at the age of 30 and you can still see what we call baby hairs or bum fluff on the face, if we could use that term. Those patients are just genetically predisposed to not being able to grow a beard. And hair transplantation or beard transplantation works tremendously well in those cases because we get to physically place back the hairs in an area where there wasn't hair before. So just like we touched base on previously where we extract follicles from one area and place it on the scalp, we do the exact same thing, but this time we're just placing it where the patient needs it.
Wow. Let's speak about the practicalities. So now I've decided I'm going to go get a transplant. How long does that operation take?
So the procedure itself is done in an outpatient facility, meaning you don't have to be booked into hospital to get these procedures done. At our LV Armani clinic in Sandton City, we perform the procedure at our clinic itself. We've got a couple of operating theatres, and the procedure itself is literally a single-day process. So patients would generally come in the morning, and oftentimes by 2, 3 in the afternoon, the case is done. So I would say, call it a 5 to 6 hour procedure, but it's not 5 to 6 hours of physically being on the table undergoing the procedure. Patients have a small break, and most often times in the afternoon when we're doing the implantation, they're literally sitting back and watching a movie whilst we're doing what we need to do. So don't foresee it as this 5 to 6 hour intense procedure. It's very much quite a nice, and I often say chilled day for the patient because they're very much under good sedation.
No, I don't buy this. Anyone who's pulled a hair out of his upper lip knows the pain. How can people just sit relaxed? What's the technique?
That's the beauty behind some of the lovely medications that we use during the procedure. So obviously the entire process gets done under local anesthetic. So once the patient is anesthetized, they literally feel nothing. And I always tell my patients, you can hold me to this, but once the anesthetic is done, you will be 100% pain-free during the procedure. So you can literally watch a Netflix documentary or series whilst we're doing this procedure for you.
Where would you find these follicles? I mean, that you have to transplant into the facial hair area?
So we take it from the back and sides of our scalp in the very same way we would do for a normal hair transplantation. We obviously try and match up the quality of the hairs to mimic and match the exact
As
sort of
closely as
hairs that the
possible.
beard would have. And in some individuals that have a very strong beard at the bottom, but necessarily don't have the same strength at the top, we can extract the follicles from their own beard and implant them in areas to make it look thicker as well. So it's always about matching the hair caliber and type so that when the hair grows back, it looks 100% natural again.
So after I've gone through this procedure, how long does it take before I can shave again or wash my face or those things?
So with a beard transplant, the first 7 days in itself, I would say is your limiting factors, where you got to look after the process very well. There's a very specific way you need to wash your face and look after the transplant itself. But from day 8 onwards, you are very much back to a normal lifestyle and routine again. We would tell patients to stay away from shaving in particular for the first month, just to allow the area to heal in its best way possible. But literally after a month, you will do exactly as you did before the procedure.
How often do I have to get this procedure? Is it like once off and then I'm set for life? Is it every 5 years touch up?
That's actually a very good question. So the nice thing is it will all depend on what the patient needs. If it's an extremely large case where the patient had no facial hair at all, they may need 2 to 3 procedures to be able to build up to the density that's required. But if it's just about filling a few patches here or there, I mean, 1 procedure would be enough. And those follicles that we implant in are permanent because they come from specific areas of the scalp that will never bald away. So once that transplant is done, you can almost foresee yourself having these hairs till the end of time.
Yeah, they're not disappearing again.
They're not going anywhere.
Is this something that people get very often? Because very often people are too embarrassed to speak about certain things, or they don't want to do it because they think, oh, I'm the only one getting it. Is this quite a common procedure?
I would say clearly over the last 6 to 12 months, it's become incredibly common. And what we like is when a patient gets it done and they actually share their journey or story with other people, it often encourages the masses to know that these procedures do exist and they can be done, and there's actually nothing to be ashamed about. I liken this process very much to like makeup in females, or males for that matter. A good strong beard can almost be likened to having a well-chiseled makeup on the face of a patient. So if someone has an issue and you want to get it sorted, rather than looking at the stigma behind the process, rather come forward, have the consultation, let's see how we can help you, and let's put those fears at bay so that we can all move forward in a positive manner.
Love that. Well-chiseled makeup on the face. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and explaining to us and educating us about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for all your listeners as well. Thank you so much.
Sien, nou weet jy nou, jy kan nog iets doen aan jou baard. Bly gerus ingeskakel net hierna se tyd vir jou nuus en finansies.